everyone, welcome to VIDYAPEETA Education Mobile App Program. VIDYAPEETA promises high quality education to students studying 10th to 12th class covering both state and CBSE syllabus. Also, we provide tutoring for IAS, KS and banking entrance exams. Welcome to demo video.
Hi students, I'm Aparna and the topic for the day is 14 Principles of Management. At the end of the session, I'll be teaching you as to how to remember these 14 principles of management in a more simple way, and that is the shortcut method. These 14 principles of management are a big success because it is applicable to all kinds of organizations. In this slide, you can find an industry. So during the time of Industrial Revolution, there were actually two major people who actually came up with the classical management theory, and they were Frederick Winslow Taylor and Henry Fayol. Now, Frederick Winslow Taylor, he came up with a system in the ground level or the production level, whereas Henry Fayol came up with a system in the administration level or the top management level. Now, let's see more about F.W. Taylor, that is Frederick Winslow Taylor. He was basically an American mechanical engineer. Now, his work was mainly to channelize the factory system of working. Now, during his study, he found that there was absolutely no cooperation between the management and the laborers. That means these managers were actually exploiting these laborers. Okay, now let's know what is exploitation. Exploitation means these management used to make them work for long working hours and then they used to pay very less. And that is called as exploitation. These laborers actually they started forming trade unions and then they fought against the management. And this created a very big gap between the management and the laborers. Frederick Winslow Taylor came up with the principles of scientific management, which actually created management and laborers to work in harmony, and also the productivity level increased. Later on, it was Henry Fayol who came up with the 14 principles of management, which was applicable to administrative level or top management level. Now, here you find a picture of Henry Fayol, and he was the one who came up with the 14 principles of management. He was also an engineer. He worked for a large mining company in France. Now, his theories were also called as Fayolism. He was known as the father of modern management theory. He was also known as the father of general management. His theories were applicable to the business administration and business managements. Now, let's start going in detail about these 14 principles of management. Now, the first point given here is division of work. Division of work, that means the entire work of the organization is divided into smaller units. For example, if you take a textile industry, so you will have cotton which will be stored in the stores department, and that cotton will be processed to threads, and those threads will be processed to a cloth, and that cloth will be again dyed in the sense color will be added, and then it will be ironed, and then it will be packed in the form of rolls. Packing in rolls means you can normally find shirt materials which are packed in rolls. Now, the entire process, right from the raw materials to the finished product, will happen in separate units. Now, an employee will be appointed to perform only a single task. Now, that employee, when he works, he gets trained. He becomes expertised. He becomes specialized in performing a single task. Now, when he performs that single task and when he becomes more specialized, production is very efficient and effective. Now, what do you mean by effective? Effective means doing right things. Now, what is efficiency? Efficiency means doing things right. Now, to summarize the division of work, the entire work of the factory is divided into smaller units. Then, when an employee is appointed, now he becomes specialized in performing a single task. And thirdly, the production will be more effective and efficient. Now, let's move on to the next point. We have authority and responsibility. Authority means the right to give orders to the subordinates. Now, who are subordinates? Subordinates means if you have managers and workers, these workers are the subordinates to the managers. What is authority? Authority means the right to give orders to the subordinates. Now, what is responsibility? Responsibility means those subordinates must perform the task and they are answerable for those tasks, and that is responsibility. Now, as a manager, he must hold both authority and responsibility. Now, assume if a manager is having only authority and no responsibility. So, what will happen in that case? If a manager is having only authority, that means he is doing a dictatorship role there and he is a Hitler, whereas the entire production is not happening at all. So, he is a waste to the management. Contradictory. What will happen if a manager is not having any authority but he is having only responsibility? Now, if he is holding only responsibility means he doesn't have any control over his employees and employees will not respect him and again production will not happen. Therefore, a manager must possess both authority and responsibility. Now, to summarize the authority and responsibility, authority means the right to give orders to the subordinates, and responsibility means to carry out. These subordinates must carry out the task, they have to perform the task and they are answerable for those tasks. Now, next here is discipline. So, what do you mean by discipline? Discipline means being very obedient and to follow the rules and regulations of the organization. Now, there is an example given in your text. There is an agreement between the management and the laborers, and the agreement actually says that laborers should work extra hours and without pay. Listen carefully. The laborers should work extra hours without pay and management will increase the salary after 3 months. So, this is the agreement. Now, what is the discipline here? Now, discipline is the workers must work, they must be committed and without any expectation. That is the discipline. And what is the role from the management side? They should keep up the word and then they have to increase the salary after 3 months, and that is the discipline. Now, to summarize the discipline, discipline means being very obedient and also to follow the rules and regulations of the organization. Now, let's move on to the next point, that is unity of command. Unity of command means one man, one head. One man, man means employee. One head, that means superior or the manager. It means one employee must have only one manager. So, what will happen if an employee has 2 different managers from 2 different departments? Now, manager A also will be delegating the work, manager B also will be delegating the work. Employee will find it more difficult as to whose orders has to be carried out first. So, that will be a major task. So, in order to avoid this, unity of command plays a major role. Now, to summarize, what is unity of command? One man, one head. Now, next point, unity of direction. Now, unity of direction means one head, one plan. That means one manager or one management must take care only of one unit. For example, again given in your text, a company is actually managing both motorcycle manufacturing as well as car manufacturing. Now, both cannot happen in a single unit. Both the manufacturing must happen in 2 different units. Mainly the 5 M's. M means the capital M, that is men, money, mission, material and method. All these 5 must be different for 2 different units. Now, what are these 5 M's? Men. Men means the laborers. Money means the money investment. Machine means the production machineries. Men, money, mission, material. Material is the raw material that are used. Both are different. For motorcycles it's different. For cars also it is different. And the last one is method, that is the planning. That is the managers must take care only of a single unit. So, now to summarize, unity of direction. Unity of direction means one head, one plan. Now we have here subordination of individual interest to general interest. Now, what do you mean by individual interest? Now, every employee, when they are working in a company, they'll have some personal interest related to organization. Example, maybe they want a hike in the salary, or they want promotions, or promotions plus transfers. So, these are all the individual interest of any employee. Now, what are general interest? General interest means an employee must work in a team for the growth and development of the company. Now, subordination of individual interest, that means your individual interest, that means the liking of increasing of salary, those kind of interests must have less value, and the value for the general interest must always be high. So, to summarize, subordination of individual interest to group interest, it means the general interest must always be given higher priority than individual interest. Now, remuneration. Now, before going to remuneration, first of all, you should know three different terms: wages, salaries, and remuneration. Now, what are wages? Wages are actually paid to day-to-day workers, that is the laborers. They are unskilled. They are not qualified. Now, what are salaries? Salaries are actually paid to skilled people who are qualified, and it is paid monthly once. So, wages are paid on daily basis, salaries are paid monthly once. Now, what are remuneration? Remuneration means it is actually a share in profit that is being taken by the top level management because they would have invested in the company. Now, here remuneration means Henry Fayol is actually coming up with the remuneration of personnel, that means about employees. He is not talking about the top level management. He is talking about the remuneration or the payment that is being given to the employees. Now, he says remuneration must be just and fair. So, everybody should be treated equally. There must be no favoritism in payment of the salary. So, in the eyes of law, all of them should be treated equally, and the remuneration has to be paid based on the experience and the qualification and other skills. Now, to summarize the remuneration, remuneration means the salary must be paid to the employee, which must be just and fair. Now, next comes centralization and decentralization. Now, both these terms are actually related to the decision-making authority. Now, centralization means the decision-making authority lies only with the top management. So, the entire company's decision will be taken only by the top management, and other levels of management will just follow their orders. So, here they have given lowering the importance of the subordinate role. In the sense, lowering the importance, that means the employees actually they follow the orders that is being delegated by the top management. So, their importance is lowered. Now, what is decentralization? Decentralization means it's actually opposite to centralization. Decentralization means the decision-making authority is actually distributed to various departments and sub-departments where every employee also takes a role. Now, to summarize, centralization and decentralization. Centralization means the decision-making authority lies only in the hands of top management, and which is very commonly found in small-scale business. And what is decentralization? Decentralization means the decision-making authority is distributed to various departments and sub-departments, which we can commonly find in large-scale industries. Now, next point. We have scalar chain. Scalar chain means usually any organization you can just find a hierarchy right from top level to bottom level, in the sense you have CEOs, then general managers, deputy general managers, managers, employees. So, this is one hierarchy and it will vary from organization to organization. Now, what is scalar chain? Now, this can be explained with the help of a diagram. Now, you can find a symbol of A here. Now, you have two slanting lines. One slanting line represents one department, the other slanting line represents the other department, and common to both A is the top management. Now, B and E falls in the general manager, E and F falls in the manager level, and D and G falls in the employee level. So, if we take this as an example, now suppose if C has to communicate with A. Now, C cannot communicate directly with A. C has to communicate with B and B has to communicate with A. So, this is the hierarchy. Now, assume D has to communicate with G. Okay, that's why the line is given here. What if D has to communicate with G? So in that case, you have a very long chain, in the sense D will communicate with C, C will communicate with B, B has to communicate with A, then A will delegate to E, E will inform F, and then F will inform G. So this is actually a very long chain. So in case of emergency, or when the employees are of same level, then they can definitely communicate with each other. Okay, so that is what it says. So scalar chain means it is a formal chain of communication where the hierarchy needs to be maintained. Now next comes order. So what do you mean by order? Order means a place for everything and everything in its place, or a place for everyone and everyone in their place. For example, you come from school. As soon as you come from school, what do? You throw your shoes, you throw your socks, throw your keys somewhere else, and then next day morning you will start searching everything. So if that happens in the organization, then every work will get delayed. So that's the reason the order is very important in the organization. Now to summarize, what is order? Order means a place for everything and everything in its place, and a place for everyone and everyone in their place. Next here is equity. Equity means equality. Now from the eyes of top management, every individual must be treated equally irrespective of the position. The top management must be more humble and kind. Only then you can expect more devotion and loyalty from the employees. Now there must be no discrimination. What is discrimination? Discrimination in the caste, color, creed, religion, sex, nationality, all that. So that should not apply. So equality means every individual must be treated equally from the eyes of top management. Now we have stability of tenure of personnel. Now personnel, N-A-L, personal is my own personal, that is different. Here personnel means employees. Now tenure means the gestation period or the time duration. Now what is stability? Stability means to stay for long run. Now stability of tenure of personnel means an employee should stay for long run in a business. Now the management should not throw an employee just in a span of 3 months. Why? Because it will create an insecurity for the employee. At the same time, an employee also should not leave the job immediately after getting trained, because the management would have invested some cost to that. Now, the management would have invested for recruitment, selection and training. Now, suppose if the employee leaves the job, then again there will be extra cost for the management to recruit another person. So, in order to avoid all this, stability of tenure of personnel means an employee must stay in an organization for long run. Initiative means the first step that is being taken by an employee based on self-motivation. Now, an employee must give suggestions to the management. Management must also be open to such suggestions and then also reward in case of when good suggestions are given. So, initiative means to take the first step out of self-motivation. And the last point here is esprit de corps. Henry Fayol was actually working in France. So, this is actually a French term. Esprit de corps means the spirit to work in unity in a team. That is unity of strength. So, as a manager, manager is a person who will actually get the work done from his laborers and then he will report to the top management. Now, when a manager is reporting to his top management, that time he should always use the word we and not I. If he tells I, that means I did this work, it becomes very selfish because the actual work is actually done by the laborers who are behind him and who are dependent on his words. In order to create a team spirit, a manager must always use the word we and then bringing the team spirit so that the employees will also feel a sense of belonging and then the bondage will be developed. We have learnt these 14 principles of management in detail. Now, let's see how to remember these 14 principles of management in shortcut method, which will be very helpful for your exams. What I have done here is, I have taken the starting letters of all the 14 principles and then I have framed a funny statement. So, when 14 principles of management question is asked, immediately you can think of this funny statement and then the points will automatically flow. So you will not forget any point. Now, you have DAD, that is dad. O. Instead of YOU, I have taken as capital U. E for eating. RICE, rice. Okay. S for, you can take sambar. S for sandwich. US, us. So the statement is, Dad, oh, you're eating rice, sambar and sandwich with us. So if this funny statement is registered, then this goes easy. Now, D for division of work, A for authority, again D for discipline, O for order, U for unity of command, E for esprit de corps, R for remuneration, I for initiative, C for centralization and decentralization, E for equity, S for subordination of individual interest to group interest, again S for stability of tenure of personnel, U for unity of direction and S for scalar chain. In the next class, we'll learn more topics. Also, we'll learn more of shortcut methods so that you understand the concepts very well and which will be helpful for your board exams and score high marks. Thank you.
Hope you liked today's demo video. Register today with VIDYAPEETA Education mobile app program for a successful career.